Hello, my most amazing artists. We're going to start this winter project today that has the birch trees in it with a snowy background, and you can see that the birch trees are in a blanket of snow. I actually have 3 that I've done, and I wanted to show you how my process is for doing this, and then you'll understand why I stop you guys and say, hey, no, wait, make sure. Because this is the end project that I did. This was my 3rd try. This was my 1st try, and it looks okay, except I can't really see the trees. And do you see how these trees are all the same, like the trunks are all the same width? I messed up doing that because as trees go further away, just like this fence is really close and this fence is really far, it gets smaller. I forgot to make my trees that were more in the background smaller. Then I realized I did that and I was like, oh, so I had to do it again. So I did it again, but this is as far as I got because on this one, I forgot to put branches on the trees before I watercolored. Finally, my 3rd attempt, I managed to remember everything. So I've got trees that are close and I've got trees that are further away. And then I've got these 2 trees that are about the same size. They're real close together. So don't think that when I do this, I do it perfectly all the time. I know a lot of times I make things look easy, but it's not necessarily always easy or perfect the first time. So we're gonna start this today. We're going to use tape, masking tape, on paper to make our trees, and then we're going to create a horizon line. To make your trees, there's a trick. So here's my paper. There's a trick to making the trees. I'm going to give you guys a long piece of masking tape to begin with. I'm just going to take off enough for the starting here. So I'm going to give you guys a long piece of masking tape. I'm going to actually put down my stand right here and then show you guys what you got to do. Okay, so here are my pants, right? You have to take this tape and stick it to your pants or to your sweater or something and get lint on the back, because right now this tape is super sticky. So I'm going to rub it on my pants and get some lint on it to make it a little less sticky, okay? If you don't do this, if you forget this step, what's gonna happen is when you go to take off the tape after we've painted, it will be too sticky on the paper and it will rip your paper. Okay, so to make the trees, we wanna have like 3 or 4 trees, different closenesses. So if I have one that's really close, say it's going to go all the way off the page, this would be like a full tree. Now birch trees aren't perfectly straight like this. In fact, let me grab my iPad. I can show you some more. Show you some. There we go. These are real birch trees, and you can see that they are not perfectly straight up and down. They are white trees that have these black markings on them. So when we do this, if you think that this is going to be too hard and you're like, oh, Mrs. Garner, I don't think I want to do that. Okay, I get it. I'm going to put my tape down on my table, and I'm going to start to slowly rip it in half. Now the closer you keep your fingers, the easier it is. But I don't want you guys to panic and think, oh, I don't think I can do that. When you do this, if you put the 2 edges, see how this edge is straight and now this edge is the ragged side? I'm going to make this tree go all the way from the top to the bottom of the page. My straight edge is right there. If you then line up your other straight edge and overlap it a tiny bit, look at how cool that looks. So now my birch tree is not perfectly straight. It actually has a curve in it going up off the page. That's how hopefully you're gonna make birch trees. The other stuff, make sure it's on my pants to get the lint on it. to make branches. The branches on birch trees go up, not down. You might want to put on a few branches, so I'm going to rip this paper. Branches always get more narrow as they go up. So anything that's wider, like this end is a little bit wider than that end, is going to go on the trunk, and then the narrow end goes towards the edge, or goes up. So there's just 2 small branches on that one. I am going to speed up the video and do the remainder of my trees, and then I'll show you the watercoloring part. All right, there are my trees. You can see that I ripped most of them, and then on the trees that are more narrow, I just overlap them more to make them more narrow. See how it's not lined up right on the edge? So they're shorter because they're further back, and then they're more narrow. To make a ground line, you don't want to go boom and have a ground line just, straight across your trees. You want it to be slightly wavy, probably halfway or a little bit more than halfway up your page. I'm going to make mine kind of a hill. So there's my ground line. Then what you're going to do is you are going to watercolor. Now we have done this watercolor process before where we have salt that we sprinkle over the watercolor. You're going to use 2 colors today. I have a blue-green and a blue. So here's my blue-green, here's my blue, and I'm going to have these I don't know if I'll have painting stations or have them at your table yet, I'm not sure, but I will let you know. So we're going to watercolor. When we do this, we're gonna make sure that our pieces are pressed down. If your pieces aren't pressed down, paint is gonna get underneath there, and then you won't have the shape of the tree. Very important, make sure these are pressed down onto your paper. I'm gonna start with the blue-green. I'm going to go right over my tree. Push this up a little bit so you can see. I'm going to go right over my trees, right at my ground line. I'm going to make my colors blend together. I don't want like a solid green, blue-green line and then a solid blue line. You want to blend them together. I'm going to take the blue and blend right up to the top of my page. I'm going to overlap those 2 colors right there so that it blends together. I'm going to go right over the tape. Blend those colors together. And then you guys have used salt before to sprinkle onto your papers. You're going to take the salt and you are going to only sprinkle in the top part, because the bottom part we are going to paint so it looks like snow. Remember, when you do your painting at the top, you do not want puddles. Puddles are not your friend. They do not turn out pretty, and it looks like a blob. In fact, I've had up, let me grab it. I've had up this piece of paper to show you guys what happens if you use too much water. If you have puddles, this is what it will turn out as. If you have just like this, like I have, it's just the right amount of water, the salt is going to work just as it should, and it's going to be awesome. Okay, the next part, I don't know whether I'm going to have painting stations or not, but I'm thinking maybe that's the way to go. Next part, you're going to paint the snow at the bottom. That's why we didn't sprinkle salt down here. So I have silver paint. It is beautiful silver paint. And you're going to paint your entire ground silver where your trees are in the snow. And that will make it shimmery and beautiful. Ooh, I got some blue-green on it. That's cool. So the whole thing at the bottom is going to be painted in silver. You can go right over the trees again. It's not going to hurt anything because that tape is there to protect it. Okay, so you get the idea. I know it's hard to see, but there is silver paint on here and it's going to make it shimmery and shiny and beautiful. So this is the first thing today. I know those directions are long. Thank you for being so patient. We're going to tape, we're going to make branches, and then paint the ground, the ground and the sky.